Our second reader this evening emerges from creative hibernation every few years to half-ass things that could really be good. Previous endeavors include 2011's YouTube parody Fake Month at the Museum, as well as a short film in 1999 that won him a trip to the Golden Globe Awards, where he peed next to John Lithgow. In addition to YouTubing and peeing, he has spent his adult life as a caricature artist, an IMAX projectionist, and a corporate PowerPoint designer for a multinational conglomerate of high-tech weapons systems designers and manufacturers, I assume, and golf cart manufacturers. Put those two together. They may also be Uber for helicopters. We don't know. Until he fills the hole in his resume where Zamboni driver should be, he'll be hard at work on the perfect Die Hard screenplay and occasionally tweeting at lazy cartoonist. Please give a warm welcome to our projectionist, Kyle Thiessen.
Thanks, everybody.
Good height.
I
like
guess.
That? Little service here.
You tell me.
There we go.
How's that?
Higher. That's good.
How's that?
Good.
All right. Well, as Bill tweeted earlier today, this is a rare thing for me to stand in front of people. So you'll have to forgive me in advance if I black out or crap my drawers. I also just realized this afternoon that I'm about to read a ghost story, and Halloween was just 2 days ago. That was a coincidence, so I find that a little unsettling. But what does make me happy is that today I got to use my printer. All right, and we're off. Morty and Dolores are the ghosts haunting the house in which we are hiding from zombies. We don't know the names of the zombies. We have a complicated relationship with Morty and Dolores because they hate zombies just like we do, but they're also trying to scare the shit out of us. Hauntings around here tend to manifest in one of two ways, physical or verbal. Both are equally irritating. A physical haunting is usually something we can see, like turning the TV on when we're trying to read or turning it off when we're trying to watch. Some afternoons they might flush the toilet for hours. One time Morty was rattling the doors of the dining room credenza hutch that housed a collection of gaudy knickknacks. Inside, a little glass figurine of a unicorn with a top hat tipped over and broke. The unicorn was left to suffer the indignity of a missing top hat and only half a horn. But that's nothing compared to the relentless belittling Morty had to suffer at the hands of Dolores. This event bore an uncanny resemblance to the aforementioned verbal hauntings, voices emanating from nowhere in particular, ostensibly targeted at us, until they aren't anymore. For example, I stand over you when you sleep. I'm in the sheets with you. Louder, Morty. I'm in the sheets with you. They can't hear that. They can hear me just fine, Dolores. Try saying something like, wait till I get my hands on you. I can handle it on my own, Dolores. Why don't you go flush the fucking toilet again? During these arguments, we can occasionally catch a glimpse of a vague, translucent specter hiding out in a ceiling fan, and we yell out, "We can see you!" Dolores usually responds, "No, you can't," just before the apparition disappears. It became obvious rather early on that they don't want to kill us. They're worried our deaths would turn us to zombies and we'd tip over more knickknacks. Ultimately, they just want us out of the house, and who could blame them? It's their house, after all. But we spent hours boarding up all the windows and doors when we arrived, and while we're no fans of being terrorized by translucent afterlife assholes, we also don't care for wasting our damn time. If they didn't want us here, they should have made their presence known when we started hammering. This house was not our first choice. While making our way up the street, pursued by the mercifully slow-moving hordes of the rotting undead, we broke into no fewer than 5 houses. The first house, which in retrospect might have been just fine, had a funny smell that we weren't comfortable with. Somebody had burned some broccoli in the microwave, and man, yuck. The second house had large picture windows that would make it hard to safeguard, and houses 3 and 4 were hard to fortify because we really fucked up the back doors when we were breaking in. We felt really bad about House 5. We'd gotten so good at wantonly breaking into homes in broad daylight that it became a point of pride. It didn't occur to us to make sure there weren't already occupants. To avoid destroying another door, we sought a window that would be low enough for easy entry, but high enough to be just out of the zombies' reach. Not that zombies are short, but their slowness belies any desire to work harder than they absolutely have to. We landed in a mustard yellow kitchen and were greeted by a living fellow with woeful posture who was wielding a large baseball bat covered in barbed wire. He swung it wildly, striking what could generously be described as nothing. The pandemonium that ensued in that moment was too overwhelming for us to articulate to him that we were friendlies, not that we didn't try. "We're here to hurt you!" "Wait, no, that's not right." He took another swing that appeared very damaging to the air. "Get out of my house!" We attempted another plea. "All we want is to take your life!" "Nuts!" The man was not skillful with a bat, perhaps because of his posture, so our defense strategy was to lurch and wobble awkwardly around the kitchen and hope for the best. This dance went on in a cartoonishly circular fashion for long enough that it started to feel fun. Then, apropos of nothing, the man abruptly stopped to feel the quiet breeze coming in through the window. He'd had a revelation. He lowered his bat, arched his crooked neck to look up at us, and asked, "You don't happen to be chiropractors, do you?" And with that, the unexpectedly diligent zombies reached exactly far enough through the window to pull the man outside and rip him to shreds. We took advantage of this distraction and quietly saw ourselves out the front door, grabbing a hammer and some other blunt instruments on the way out. Who wants a mustard yellow kitchen anyway? One last address up the block, we finally came upon our current dwelling, a large Cape Cod with a raised foundation, perfect for deterring a bunch of grabby walking corpses. It even had an antique rocking chair on the front porch, the kind that makes one feel welcome even before they attempt to forcibly enter. To avoid a situation like at the neighbor's house, and as long as the zombies were still busy feeding on him, we rang the doorbell first and peered in through the sidelights. When the coast seemed clear, we tried the front door, which was unlocked. Home seemed closer with every nefarious act. We searched the house for dwellers, unpleasant odors, and any wood furniture that could be used to barricade entrances, all the while calling out for possible inhabitants, quietly enough so as not to be heard outside. No response later, we were chopping up tables. We left a note on the front door that read, "To the owners of this house, we have boarded the place up from the inside. We are very sorry. There is another house next door that we can guarantee is not occupied. Please accept our offer of that house in lieu of your own." Then we sealed the door shut with some nails in the seat of the rocking chair. We'd hit the jackpot. This place was well-stocked and very homey. Family photos and homemade cross-stitching adorned the walls and various other surfaces, and the breakfast nook was home to a dozen years' worth of certificates for the county's best apple turnover. The kitchen cabinets were filled with canned goods and dry grains. There was plenty of water in the fridge, and a bushel of fresh-picked apples rested on the elegant but not too overstated marble countertop. A loaf of bread had been very recently baked and was resting on the windowsill, though it was now covered in splinters and sawdust. It was as if the house was expecting us. After checking out the pinball machines in the basement, we came back upstairs and discovered all the remaining furniture had been rearranged. This was not only irksome, but our first indication that something was amiss. We claimed this house not just because it was well stocked with canned goods and apple turnover awards, but also because it had a very hospitable reading area, and the TV was set up in the corner and gave the room a good flow, and even though it can be risky to set up furniture on an angle like that, it really felt nice. We didn't have much time to be terribly disheartened by this development because thwump, a pillow, followed by several more pillows, thwump, thwump. Pillows were ejecting themselves from an adjacent linen closet of their own accord and striking us at a slightly disagreeable velocity. When the supply of pillows was exhausted, duvets and fitted sheets came next, though at a clumsier trajectory. That's when we heard Dolores and Morty's voices for the very first time. "Throw harder, Morty. Would it kill you again to lend a hand? You should tie them in big knots before you throw. Forget it, Dolores. I'm trying something else. That's when we were pelted very briefly with apples. Morty, this is so wasteful. Our confusion for the moment gave way to pity. Apparently, someone lived here after all, and we had intruded. There was no conceivable exit at this point, so we thought about acting scared in order to make them feel better. Until they revealed themselves to be very judgmental and not deserving of our sympathy. Dolores, we need to get rid of these people. Don't do anything rash, Morty. We just cleaned all these carpets. Tell me something I don't know, Dolores. We gotta be very delicate here. Anything happens to them, they come back as walking corpses, and that only compounds the problem. It seemed appropriate to interject. How do you know we won't come back like you? There was a pause where Morty and Dolores realized we could hear them. Finally, because you got no class. Dolores, let's try the toilet thing you mentioned. If the house weren't so perfect for us, we'd stick around out of spite. But we like it here. We try to leave the living room as infrequently as possible because every time we come back, they've moved all the furniture again. So we generally come and go in shifts. We try to keep things harmonious by being inclusive. Sometimes when we're cooking, we'll call out to Dolores for advice on making apple turnovers. All we ever get in response is something like, "Be careful with that knife, you'll cut yourself," followed by, "And get out." Likewise, Morty cautioned us the other day to watch your step, those stairs are slippery, and after a moment, we'll steal your soul. Sometimes the nervous jitter in their voices makes us worry they're going to somehow trip over their phantasmic selves and accidentally drop something heavy on us. And although it occurred to us in hindsight when we were hammering the boards on the windows, we might have heard Dolores screaming, "No, not the mahogany," we remain in good spirits. Sometimes we look at the boards on everything and wish we'd been less haphazard in our haste to secure the house. Sometimes we think about taking the wood down and putting it back up again, nice and straight and symmetrical, and perhaps applying a nice varnish. But, fucking zombies. Thanks.